Hey, everybody, it's Scott Steen with winnersandwhiners.com coming to you with the Thursday edition of Today in Sports Betting. We're going to do the college edition, Scott. Usually you and I get here and complain that we don't have a lot of games to talk about. That is not the case today at all. We've got a lot of good college games, a lot of games with ranked teams. So, you ready to get to it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so let's start off in the MAC. No, I'm kidding. Although there are some decent games in the MAC. What do you think of this Buffalo team, Scott? Are they for real? Is there any team for real in the MAC? Because for a long time we thought it was Toledo, and they've kind of gone off the rails. So, is there a decent team in the MAC?
Truth is, I still like Toledo. I think Akron, despite being the second best team according to record, is a little bit overrated. I've watched them play. This team seems to have a lot of offense and very little defense. So I don't think Akron can really kick it to another gear. Looking at some other teams, though, Kent State's kind of the same way as Akron. This team defensively is not very good, but offensively can outscore you. I think Ohio's interesting because this team has been winning games even without some of its best players. I do think that it has enough offensive firepower to potentially be a sleeper team in the conference. But Buffalo has been the most interesting team over the last couple of weeks because Buffalo was very underwhelming to start. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of went on a pretty big run over the last couple of weeks. It had a couple of games canceled because of COVID, but it has won 4 of its last 5. And when I say won, they've won those games by at least 20 points.
Killing them. Killing them. Yeah, they're not afraid of those big numbers at all. So
I still think Toledo's the best team. But if I was going to be looking for some potential maybe value in a conference tournament market, I definitely think that Buffalo is worth a shot. And I think Ohio might be worth a shot if you have Wilson and Preston back.
Because that's the thing. You've got Wilson and Preston that are both questionable for this game tonight.
When healthy, though, I think you'd agree Ohio can beat any of the other teams in the MAC.
I really believe almost any team in the MAC can beat any other team.
Correct. I'm just saying
that Ohio is an intriguing team, and they seem to be headed in the right direction.
Earlier this year, though, Ohio almost went into Champaign and almost beat Illinois. So
they gave them all they wanted. So sorry, I threw you a curveball because obviously the conference to talk about tonight is the Big Ten. I was just messing with you there with the MAC.
I still pick Toledo, but I do think there are a couple other teams that can give Toledo a serious shot in the tournament.
No one cares.
Yeah. Well, you asked, so I was answering.
I know. All right, bud. Let's start with a play that I know you had your play of the day on. It's the Iowa-Michigan game. If you want Scott's total, if you want Scott's side, you can go ahead and check out his video. You got any thoughts on the total here, bud?
Well, for this one, I am probably going to have to lean to the over. Am I thrilled about it? No, I definitely feel a lot better on the side, which is why I made a solo play on it. But you have Michigan and Ohio, who you both know has the capability of scoring at least 80 points in any given game. We just saw Michigan torch a very good Ohio State defense. And Iowa, as we've talked about in the past, not exactly the greatest defense in the Big Ten. This team has had some defensive lapses against very good teams. We've seen it against Illinois, gave up 80 points in that one, saw it against Ohio State at home, and Ohio State did whatever it wanted offensively in that game. Just go through the lines and you look at who Iowa's played and how well the good teams have performed offensively. It's been a serious problem for Iowa. They don't get many stops against good teams. And I think that Michigan is the definition of a very, very good team. It would not surprise me if Michigan scores potentially 84 in this game.
Yeah, they hung a 87 on Ohio State?
Something like that, and we know how good Ohio State is.
That's what I'm saying. So yeah, I'm probably going to tend toward the over here too. It's interesting that the money on this has actually come in on the other side, as we've seen the total fall from an opening number 157.5 down to 155 in most spots. So does it worry you being on the other side of the public, Scott?
Not really. I mean, I know I got an early. Just in general, you usually can tell if you get an early on a game where the money's going to come in from.
Right.
And when you see money coming in on the opposite side, that's not always necessarily a bad thing. But if you go through Iowa's results here against very solid teams, they've had some pretty high-scoring games. The Ohio State game landed in the 170s. You're going down the line here. I know Illinois landed at basically exactly 155, and you could have had some potentially even higher scoring action there if Illinois made more free throws. But you're going through some of these games. Iowa's been a good over team all season long. I know the totals have gotten higher as the season has progressed. But then you look at recent results, and people are going to say, well, they went under against Rutgers, Michigan State, and Wisconsin, and Penn State. And I'm saying, have you looked at the 4 teams you just mentioned in that?
Yeah, they've gone under in 5 straight, and Michigan's gone under in 3 of the last 4.
Yeah, but the best team they've played in that stretch is probably Wisconsin.
Right, and they're not. And Wisconsin ain't going to score.
Yeah,
that's the thing. So, yeah, I think people are just opening up and looking at their trends, and I think they're seeing that 5 in a row, 4 of the last, or 3 of the last 4, 6 of the last 8. This is obviously is an underplay, and I think you and I feel the same way, that you have to look at the level of competition and the teams that they've been playing and where they've gone under and what they've been able to do. So yeah, I'm with you there. And if you want our plays on this, he has a standalone video, and then I've got a premium play on this as well. So of course, Scott, that's not the only game that matters in the Big Ten tonight, is it? Is it, Scott?
No, sorry. I thought you were talking. I thought that was a rhetorical question.
It was not.
I thought you were segueing yourself to talk about another game. My bad.
You're good. Of course, I'm talking about Nebraska, Illinois. No, it's any hope for this? It's 12. And if I was going to lay a big number tonight, and there's a lot of big numbers on the board, this is one of my favorites. I think Illinois in a spot probably has a little bit of a bad taste in their mouth. Anything to like about this Nebraska squad, especially on the road?
I think the one thing that you might have to like about Nebraska is the fact that they already played once this season, and it went to overtime. Nebraska only lost by 5.
Right.
Getting 14. Now, this line has actually plummeted. This line originally opened up at around 15 or 16. I see it down at around 12.5 or 13. There has been a lot of money on Nebraska. I think mostly that's because of the fact that these teams are very close the first meeting. So people might be a little bit overreacting in the situation. At least that's what I see according to whatever I'm looking at. Mm-hmm. But overall, do I really want to take Nebraska here? No. It's just looking at this matchup here. Illinois is coming off of a pretty embarrassing showing on the road against State. Was in the middle of a pretty big win streak. Came off of a massive blowout win against Minnesota, which I know doesn't sound that impressive. Minnesota was a very good home team.
Yeah.
And immediately responded by getting killed by Michigan State. They lost by 9. They were down double digits basically the entire game. So now you return home after a pretty decent road trip, and you get to face off against the second worst team in the Big Ten, or even the worst team in the Big Ten. I got to assume Illinois just lays it on them, but we'll see.
That's kind of what I'm thinking here as well. I like to see that line movement going the other way. I'm not afraid of that at all.
I would lean to the over, though. I think that even though the first game was low scoring, I had an under in Nebraska's game against Penn State, and that game went over by about 20-something points. Yeah. But you're looking at some of these results. Nebraska had a little bit of a good defensive, I'd say, week. And then you look at the last couple of games, gave up 79 to Maryland, gave up 86 to Penn State, gave up 75 to Purdue. Illinois can drop 90 on you if you're not ready to play some defense. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Illinois, especially in a spot against a team that it might have overlooked the first time around. It wouldn't surprise me if Illinois just lays it on them and probably drops like 85, 87, something like that.
I definitely see high 70s to 80 in this one. So, yeah. All right. So let's talk about the third and final game there that is got everyone's attention, and that is Ohio State looking to bounce back against a suddenly resurgent Michigan State team. Scott, can we go ahead and say that?
I think that's a bit excessive, but then again, people want to buy into the Blue Bloods as much as possible, so I'm not surprised that beating Indiana on the road, Indiana was supposed to be somehow a tournament team despite being 7-9 in conference play, which I find hilarious. Won that game, and then the impressive home win against Illinois. And we have discussed our issues with Illinois all season long on how this team just seems to – I can't even really describe it. This team just seems to kick it to autopilot once every 5-6 games.
Just sort of go in the tank for no apparent reason.
Is that a fair description?
Yeah.
It's autopilot because they just kind of just rely on their talent and don't really – it seems like they just don't even acknowledge their opponent at times.
Yeah, agreed. They think they just go out there and what's the saying? You just throw your jersey on the field and
you win by 30. That's the logic they have, which is why they're probably going to lose in the second or third round in the tournament. But we'll see what happens.
So Michigan State, of course, with their big win over Illinois, that was obviously a home game, and now they get Ohio State. Do you factor in, Scott, the importance of this game? Because obviously this game is a lot more important to Michigan State than it is to Ohio State. Although I believe with a loss here, Ohio State could play themselves out of a 1 seed.
Well, in addition to that, it's also half a game behind Illinois for a 2 seed, and Ohio State already owns the tiebreaker. So you can make an argument that this game is also important for Ohio State if it wants to go for the better seeding in the conference tournament. So it's not.
I was speaking more overall.
No, I know you meant overall. I'm just saying in general, whether it's conference play or whether it's overall, this game does mean something to Ohio State. So it's not just like Michigan State needs to win this game and Ohio State doesn't. No, Ohio State's trying to win this game to boost its overall resume.
How much do you factor in Ohio State wanting to make a statement after losing that game over the weekend to Michigan?
I think it matters. Ohio State's still the number 4 team in the country, so it still obviously is in line for either a 1 or a 2. But since obviously it's in the same conference as Michigan, one of those teams are going to have to lose in the conference tournament. So you might play yourself off of the 1 line if you end up losing, but you can easily boost your resume, try to even move up in the rankings if, for example, Michigan loses tonight, hypothetically, to Iowa. There are some good spots for Ohio State, some of these teams to potentially move up if you see a primetime game for somebody who's slightly above you in the rankings.
Yeah, and after this game, they finish at home against Iowa and Illinois. So they can definitely pad their resume, but they've got to take care of business here. Is this any kind of a sandwich spot? I know that's kind of how the market is treating this game. Between Michigan, Iowa, and Illinois, you've got Michigan State. Is there any chance they go to sleep on this team, or do you think that victory over Illinois maybe woke Ohio State up where they're taking notice of this Michigan State team more than they might have before?
The truth is, I think it would normally be a sandwich spot if they beat Michigan, because that would seem to just be, obviously in football, it's one of the biggest rivalries that exist. I think that Ohio State, since it had to play against Michigan, lost. I do think it'll get up for this game. I don't really see a situation where Ohio State loses 1 game to a top 3 team in the country and then suddenly rolls over the next game. I just don't see that. I think Ohio State will be motivated to get back on track. I think we both know that on paper, Ohio State's a significantly more talented team in this spot. And the issue Michigan State has, when they've gone up against serious big men, they've gotten torched. They're just going through the actual lineups here. I know Garza didn't have the greatest game against Michigan State, but they were also double-teaming him every time he got the ball, which is why Iowa won by 30, because they had to double him on the inside, and they gave a bunch of wide-open threes. They had that game. Purdue beat them because Purdue beat them twice because they couldn't guard Williams, who was just an absolute truck, and Michigan State couldn't guard him. Their center options are basically Henry in a small lineup who's not a center, or even Hauser, who can't guard anybody who's bigger than, 6'9".
Right.
So you throw in Liddell down there, good luck to you. That's all I'm going to say, because Ohio State has the size and has the guard play to give Michigan State some problems. And I just simply think that Illinois kicked it into, Michigan State sucks, we're going to beat them. And Ohio State's going to look at this game and say, we have to come out and we cannot let the loss against Michigan linger. So I like Ohio State here. I just think that Ohio State will come out and take care of business.
Okay, very good. Ken Palm's got Iowa ranked 4 spots ahead of Ohio State. Do you agree with that?
No, but then again, it's mostly because of the fact that Ohio State also had a lot of injuries to deal with earlier this season, which it had to overcome. I think Iowa on paper is a very good team offensively. But the issue I have once again is that you watch some of these games that Iowa's in and that Illinois is in, and you have 2 duds against Indiana, and you kind of wonder what happened there. And it just seems like Iowa relies so heavily on its offense that when shots don't fall from behind the arc, the defense isn't going to do enough to win games.
Right.
And I think it's the same thing with Illinois. I don't think Illinois is a fantastic defensive team. They're fine. But if you're not going to be making shots, then you're going to have some problems. Where I think Michigan, for example, if this team wasn't making shots, I still think Michigan's defense, which ranks 12th in defense efficiency according to Ken Palm, would still be able to win games.
I agree. I agree with that. I just found that weird that Ken Palm actually has Ohio State is the fourth best team in the Big Ten.
Well, Iowa, according to KenPom, has the number one overall offense in the entire country, which I don't agree with either. I think it's Gonzaga or Baylor. But still, the point is that I think Iowa's offense is so good that it's a little bit of an outlier when you look at the overall averages and efficiency numbers.
Speaking of that, did we just have a Baylor team that was rusty coming off the break there, or is it possible they're not the second best team in the country or the first best team?
I still think Baylor's the second best team in the country. But the one thing you have to wonder is that we've seen how COVID has impacted other athletes and other sports. The teams had numerous COVID breaks in the middle of the season.
Right.
I'm kind of curious if that will potentially play a factor, even if Baylor is still at 92% in terms of health.
Right.
It wouldn't surprise me potentially if Baylor is one of those teams that everyone pencils into the Final Four, and then you look at one matchup and they just look lethargic.
Would that have been the biggest upset of the year?
You talking about spreads or just perception?
I'm talking about perception.
I think it has to be up there. Iowa State's easily the worst team in the conference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a team that's winless in conference play versus a team that's undefeated on the entire season.
I still think the biggest upset of the year is probably Fort Hays.
Fort Hays State. I got a fun fact about this, Scott. Kansas State became the first team since I believe 1993 to lose to a Division II team and beat a top 10 team.
Yeah, beat Oklahoma in the last game. So shout out to Oklahoma. But I think Oklahoma and Alabama might have been two teams that peaked too early.
They certainly didn't look good last night. Neither one of them did. As Alabama went down to a big defeat against Arkansas. That was a big win for the Hogs down there.
I want to give Alabama a bit of a pass though, because Arkansas attempted roughly 25 more free throws in the game.
Yeah. When
the refs are going to be that, the calls are going to be that one-sided, you're not going to win many games. That's all I'm going to say.
Agreed. All right, so there's Scott's Big Ten rundown for the day. Anything else you see there got your attention?
Looking through the card, one game I do want to watch is actually not in the Big Ten. It's going to be in the Mountain West in a conference that we've talked about. It's going to be between Boise and San Diego State. I just think that's a great game that I think a lot of people are still sleeping on the Mountain West. This conference, I think a couple teams can sneak up on people. It really wouldn't surprise me if Boise and San Diego State or even a Utah State would win a tournament game, maybe even two. I think San Diego State could be a Sweet 16 team.
You've got Colorado State stuck in there too. You've got
State's a little bit trickier though because they also had a COVID leave in the middle. I'm kind of curious how the committee's going to stack them up in comparison.
It will be interesting to see. Yeah, this is a Boise State team that just handled a tricky Utah State team 2 in a row on their last time out, and that was a Utah State team that handed San Diego State back-to-back losses. In fact, I believe it's their only losses in conference play.
I had a play today on Boise in the second game, and that ended up turning into a winner. But, yeah, that game was very close. Alston's a great player. Boise has a lot of different options on how to beat you. But I am a little bit concerned that sometimes this team is just, I'd say, overly reliant on jump shots, which seems to be a little bit concerning. I know Alston likes to take jump shots. He's a better driver. And I do think that if Boise's going to settle from the outside, that's not exactly the recipe they want to use to win games. And I feel like San Diego State should do a pretty good job of forcing Boise into some jump shots because defensively, we know how good San Diego State is. This team is really good.
It's weird how their basketball teams and football teams mirror each other.
Basically.
The San Diego State teams are both very, very
not much
similar.
Offense, but the defense, is buckled on.
Right. Yeah, they've given up less than 60 in 6 of their last 7. Now, obviously there's some dregs in the Mountain West, and I'm not going to sing the praises of San Jose State or Wyoming, but
Air Force.
Air Force actually wasn't in that.
Air Force fell apart. It's 3-15 in conference play now, but yeah.
No, they're not. Air Force is not. No,
I'm saying it jumped into the bottom feeder aspect.
But they did hold Utah State to 57-64, and that's impressive because that is a very good Aggies team out there. So yeah, that'll be a fun game. You got to play on it, or you just want to watch it?
Truth is, I think I just want to watch it. I mean, you're looking at the spread here. I would have probably taken San Diego State, but then you see the spread 6.5.
I'm a buyer at 4.5 and no more.
That's what I was saying. If it was a shorter number, then I would have jumped, but I'm not taking 6.5. But I do want to watch that game. I think you can watch San Diego State and say to yourself, just by watching one game against a very good offense, if San Diego State puts the clamps down, watch out. because this defense could easily win a couple tournament games.
And I agree, and they're an unusual defense that people aren't used to seeing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be fun. All right, so I'm gonna put you on the spot here, Scott. We've got a lot of big spreads tonight. We got a lot of big double-digit spreads. Who is the most likely dog to pull off the spread victory?
All right, does it have to be a primetime game, or can it just be any game?
No, it can be anything.
So looking at the entire card, this is really just putting me on the spot right now.
I know.
Truth is, I'm probably going to consider Robert Morris against Detroit.
Okay.
I know Detroit is the better team by far, and Robert Morris is 4-14. This team sucks, but they have played 2 consecutive games at Detroit, and now they're playing not even a back-to-back, but it's a back-to-back-to-back.
Okay.
Which I don't think I've ever seen before.
No, that's a weird thing. It's a weird year, buddy.
I just feel like if you've seen the team twice in the span of like the last week and a half,
yeah,
I don't exactly want to lay 10 with the favorite there. I know Detroit has actually been surprisingly decent this season because it's been terrible in recent years, but just based on the recent matchups here, I got to assume Robert Morris should look competitive against a team that's already had time to game plan for twice before this, right? So it's one of the most interesting scheduling spots I've ever seen.
It's very strange indeed.
Well, they can't be playing 2 out of 3 because Detroit's already won the first 2, but still, I'm not laying 10 with a team that just had to face off against this exact opponent twice last week. So if I'm going to look at a potential long shot underdog, I think Robert Morris is worth a shot.
Okay.
You? I think you'll agree with my logic. It's just a weird scheduling spot.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Scott, we talked about it before the show started. I'm taking Mississippi Valley State. The Prairie View.
Were you talking about the cover, or were you talking about to win the game?
No, taking them to cover. They're catching.
I originally thought you meant as like a long shot money.
No, not for the victory. No. Just to beat the number.
Still, I think my answer would be Robert Morris, just based on the scheduling spot. Anyway.
31, Scott. That's all I'm telling you. 31.
You're on your own on this one because Prairie View might be the best team in the conference.
And they've played very good. They have won and covered everything in sight. So, but again, just 31 points. It just.
How much did they lose to Texas Southern?
Oh, I don't know. 100.
38?
No, 37. 37 as a 28-point dog.
Mm-hmm.
They covered 25 against Grambling. They didn't cover 26 against Jackson State.
For the record, Prairie View has played against Mississippi Valley State once this season, won by 46.
I know they're due.
Yeah, they're due. Yeah, I gotta buy a jersey at some point. This team's made me so much money fading them this entire season.
Mississippi Valley State. Well, yeah, especially since Chicago State quit.
How much do you think I can get a jersey for Mississippi Valley State? Like $40?
Oh, I bet they want real money for them, sure.
I'm kind of curious because I'm sure nobody's ever asked that before. I'm sure alumni don't even want to buy jerseys for this.
Nah, it's too funny.
Mm-hmm.
All right, bud. Well, that's you got any more thoughts on the college card before we move on to the NBA?
No. I know in the past I've given out some plays on Eastern Kentucky overs. I know usually the lines were in the low 140s, high 140s, low 150s.
Yep.
Lines at 160.5 against Belmont.
Yep.
Belmont, potentially the most underrated team in the country. I can honestly say that I have not actually seen them play at any point. But then you look up at the record that Belmont has, and you realize, hang on a second, this team's 24-1.
Yep. I ran into that buzzsaw a little over a week ago. We faded Belmont in what I thought was a profitable spot, and it was not. So
well, still, the point I'm trying to say is that I'm looking at the total here. I'd probably lean to the over. Just going through these matchups here. Eastern Kentucky's gone over in 7 straight. Belmont's gone over in 4 of its last 6. Both these teams can easily put up points in bunches, and you know the Eastern Kentucky plays one of the fastest paces. I think both those teams can just turn into a track.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, this is an Eastern Kentucky that I think if I recall, because we had this the other day, I think they're 4th in pace and 1st in number of field goals shot during a game. So they flat get up and down the court. So
I'd look over there.
All right, very good. And, of course, if you want more information on these games or any other games, don't forget to stop by and check out winnersandwhiners.com. Deep dives into every game every single day. Tell them Scott sent you. No, don't do that. They don't care. So for myself, for Scott Reichel, we appreciate you guys watching today. I wish you nothing but the best on all of your picks. Hope every one of those tickets in your pocket turns into cash money back at the window. You guys stay tuned. Don't change that dial, as they used to say. We're going to do our NBA show right on the heels of this one. All right. So that's a wrap for college. Guys, have a great day, and we'll see you on the flip side on Today in Sports Betting. Take care, everybody.